Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us here today at MassBio's June Town Hall. My name is Chris Murphy. I am Vice President General Manager of Viral Vector Services for Thermo Fisher Scientific. I also serve as Board Chair for MassBioed Foundation. Here with me today is Sunny Schwartz, who is our Executive Director at the Mass Biotechnology Educational Foundation, or MassBioed. And we're going to have a discussion today on our industry and how do we identify new ways to expand and diversify the talent pipeline as the demand for the best and brightest minds continues to exceed supply. So I have a number of questions I'm going to ask Sunny, but we'd also like to hear from you and the questions you have. So we'd like to just remind you that if you do have questions throughout this fireside chat, just use the Q&A function and add them, and we'll get to them as we can towards the end of the presentation. So first off, Sunny, I'd love to hear you share the mission of MassBioed and what is your relationship to MassBio.
Thanks, Chris. So great to be here today. MassBioed is focused on building the life sciences workforce in Massachusetts. So we work with middle and high school students to engage them in hands-on biotechnology learning, and we also provide career information and awareness to students at all levels. And last week, we launched our first life sciences apprenticeship program to train a diverse group of adults to enter the workforce. And we also provide labor trends information, which is what we're going to talk about today. So as far as MassBio and our relationship, MassBioed is a sister organization of MassBio. MassBio actually founded MassBioed 20 years ago to focus on education and workforce development for the life sciences in Massachusetts. And MassBioed's work supports MassBio member companies.
Fantastic. And of course, COVID-19 spotlighted the role of life sciences in solving the world's greatest health crises. Truly a remarkable year for the biotech and the science across the world. And there's a dramatic rise in medical school applications, even. They call it the Fauci effect. Looking at the industry more broadly, how has the pandemic affected hiring trends?
It's a great question. Everyone wants to know that. So actually, the beginning of 2020, pre-COVID, all industries saw a rise in hiring. And then when COVID hit, most industries saw a dip in hiring for the first half of 2020. But in the life sciences, and I'm talking about here in Massachusetts, in the life sciences, there wasn't really a dip, just a little bit of a pause when COVID first hit. But then starting in Q3 of 2020, there was a recovery, and the hiring in the life sciences continued to rise then, and it hasn't stopped since. So actually, the Massachusetts life sciences saw a 4% increase in employment in 2020 over 2019.
Yeah, it was remarkable. I mean, for our business here in Massachusetts, we never stopped hiring. It was incredibly busy, despite the challenges, of course, of COVID-19. And what does the growth of the Massachusetts life sciences workforce look like moving forward?
Yeah, great. So life sciences in Massachusetts has actually grown 67% over the past 10 years, and it shows no signs of slowing down. So in fact, we know there's going to be really a precipitous rise in the growth of the workforce. So MassBioed did a life sciences workforce conference last week, and for that, JLL pulled together some data analyzing the life sciences real estate market that's coming down the pike, and the results are just nothing short of astounding, I'll say. So we expect a bare minimum of 20,000 new workers over the next 3 years, and it could be as high as 40,000. So remember, I talked about 67% growth in the last decade. So what I just said is a 43% growth in just 3 years, given that we have 89,000 current workers. So that's like an amazing amount of growth for any industry to absorb. And that's just based on investor-owned properties, which is only a fraction of the real estate. So when we add in company-owned expansion, which includes companies like yours, Chris, Thermo Fisher, that could be like another 13,000 jobs.
Yeah, it's just reaffirming that this is the world's largest cluster for biotechnology, and the demand for talent is just growing. And I have my own views on this, but I'd be curious to hear what the foundation sees as the high demand jobs in life sciences right now.
Yeah, so as part of our employment outlook report, which we just released last week, which just free plug is available for free download on our website if anyone wants like more details on this. But the highest jobs that are hardest to fill, number one is regulatory affairs, which has just been a long-term trend in the industry. That's been a very hard to fill job for a long time. And second is research scientists, and then data scientists, where we're competing with high tech for those folks. And fourth is engineering and product development. So, we're talking about growth in the industry, and a lot of that is measured by hiring demand and job postings. And so the hiring demand, especially for like management positions, has increased more than 150% over the past 10 years, which is astounding. And for life scientists, it's increased about 75%. So when we surveyed employers, the expected high volume hiring over the next year moving forward, number one is manufacturing and production, and that's not a surprise to you, Chris, I'm sure. Quality control and assurance was number two, and then again, research scientists was number three. So kind of the upshot there is that employers just have a really strong need for highly skilled scientists and people with management experience. And then coming up, there's a growing need for technical support and leaders of manufacturing operations. So that's kind of what it looks like now.
Yeah, it's amazing. Just a comment for me is that the advanced regenerative medicine industry, which is now the second generation medicines, which, for example, the COVID vaccines using mRNA and viral vector, they are demanding the folks that were built their careers here in the 90s. And of course, now there's this huge explosion of it, given the support needed to get these medicines to people in need. At MassBio and throughout Massachusetts, there's a concerted effort to ensure the state can foster the rise of biomanufacturing, something near and dear to me for sure. What can be done to identify and train skilled talent to support the growth of this sector?
Yeah, that's a great question. With all this growth, there's obviously a high demand for biomanufacturing workers. So I can tell you about three things that are being done to address this growing need, and maybe that will help companies think through their hiring for these kinds of jobs. So first, just last week, I mentioned MassBioed launched an apprenticeship program. And I just want to tell you a little bit about that for a minute. So over time, we'll train for a lot of different occupations, but our first class that started is for biomanufacturing technicians because of this demand. So what we did is we recruited a very, very diverse group of students, and they're going to receive training at Northeastern University for 5 months. The curriculum, this isn't Northeastern's regular curriculum. The curriculum was customized just for this program in coordination with the employers. And what makes this a unique training program is that the students were already hired by life sciences companies before they even started training. So that's a guaranteed job for them. And after this educational portion, they will become apprentices at these companies, and with built-in kind of on-the-job training, and then it leads directly into full-time permanent employment. So it's a win-win for everybody. So that's one thing that MassBioed is doing. And then there are two other buckets of programs to really help manage this need for biomanufacturing workers that I just want to mention. So it's community college programs and then nonprofit training programs. So many community colleges offer biotechnology programs, and these are sometimes overlooked by companies because traditional recruiting sources go right to colleges and universities and not looking at our two-year institutions. So I want to make a plug for those programs. They're awesome. So the largest enrollments in biomanufacturing are at Bunker Hill, Middlesex, and Holyoke community colleges, but many schools across the Commonwealth offer really excellent programs in biotechnology. And these are just great places for companies to recruit biomanufacturing workers and lab technicians. And then there's a nonprofit training program. So there are 3 in Massachusetts that work in the biotech industry. So there's Just the Start, which is in Cambridge. There's the Gloucester Biotechnology Academy, and then Jewish Vocational Services runs a program with Quincy College. So these are also great places to recruit workers for biomanufacturing.
Yeah, it's really exciting. And I'm particularly excited by the apprenticeship program because look, that experiential learning is just such a game changer as far as getting folks into your operations to learn hands-on, but also to get folks really excited and energized by this amazing industry we're part of. In the last year, numerous companies, kind of to shift gears a bit, have pledged to increase diversity within their organizations. Well, we often find that members of marginalized and minority communities are underrepresented in the workforce. What is MassBioed doing to better reach these populations and ensure they have access to the industry and the opportunity to be successful?
Yeah, I'm so glad you brought that up. So at MassBioed, diversifying the workforce is an important part of our mission. And as our board chair, Chris, you know that we've made that part of our mission. So we're not just talking about building and supporting the workforce. Our goal is to diversify it. And let's be frank, this industry, we need some help with diversity. And so that's part of our goal, which is both to help companies who really want to increase the diversity and also help people who haven't had access to these jobs, who have been shut out for various reasons. They don't have the networks. They don't know where to turn for the right educational tools in order to get into this industry. So a few things that MassBioed is doing is, one is our apprenticeship program. So this program is focused on adults and getting them into the industry. And our first class, I'm super proud to announce, is 68% people of color, and it's more than half women. And that's part of the goal of this program, is to specifically recruit people who have not had access to the industry. And then I don't want to discount on the youth side, MassBioed has a long-standing, wonderful program in our BioTeach program. And BioTeach works in middle and high schools, and it's really enhancing biotechnology learning by doing teacher training and also helping to lead directly hands-on labs with students. So we focus there on high needs districts with diverse populations. So that's where the diversity part gets in. And our goal is really to give them the education to be ready for STEM majors in college, but not just the biotechnology education, they also have to know about these careers. Because a lot of people don't even know about the life sciences as a career. They don't see it every day, right? They see teachers, they see doctors, they see nurses. So when they think about science, they think about the medical profession. They don't necessarily think about life sciences because they've never been exposed to it. So part of what MassBioed does in our BioTeach program is to provide both the education so they're ready, thinking about STEM majors, but also providing them opportunities to learn about life sciences careers so that they can see sort of how exciting and rewarding these careers are. So we have a program called our Career Ambassador Program, where we train industry volunteers to speak to students about their own career path and how they got into the life sciences. And then also to speak, we train them on kind of some of these statistics that I've shared today and like where the growth is and the opportunities for life sciences careers to get students excited about potentially going into that field. So those are a couple of the things that MassBioed is doing to diversify the workforce. And we work in partnership with MassBio, who also has the mission around helping companies to both diversify new workers and also create a sense of belonging and support diverse workers who are already in the workforce at their companies.
That's fantastic. It's interesting, there's some simple things we're doing as well at Thermo Fisher around just even how we write job descriptions and how we think about interview panels. Because surprisingly, those things can have, and maybe not so surprising, can have a subtle and profound effect on folks that are showing interest in opportunities. So there's a question from the audience, and as a reminder to everybody, please, we'd love to hear from you. Any questions you have or any comments, just use the Q&A function that's there on the Zoom desktop. We do have a question here, and it is as follows. How can life sciences companies best engage with high schools and colleges and universities to reach the next generation of talent? I think you touched on a little bit of this, but it'd be good to kind of pull that together, Sunny.
Yeah. So looking at the data, there has been an increase of college graduates getting degrees in the life sciences, kind of related majors, but it's just not enough to meet the demand. And shockingly, across the US, just taking Massachusetts out, there's been zero increase in PhD conferrals in the life sciences related fields, which is incredibly disturbing. We should all be concerned about that. So we all collectively need to do more to inspire students to get both college degrees and PhDs in the fields that we need to fill all these jobs. As we talked about earlier, we have a really strong need for these highly skilled scientists, and our schools are not producing them. People aren't choosing this. So I mentioned our career ambassador program, so I'll just mention that again. So if you ask about how companies to get involved, that's one way, is we want to increase awareness of life sciences careers. And we do that not just at the middle and high school level, but also at the college level, because somebody could be at college majoring in biology thinking they're headed to med school, and they haven't even thought about this as an industry. Or they could be majoring in computer science, and maybe they could have a more, well, I don't want to compete with our IT friends, but we'll call it a rewarding career in life sciences if they really knew what it was about. So our job is to just blanket the world with knowing about these careers, and we need industry help with that. People in the industry are the best people to talk to students about their own career and about careers in the life sciences. So if folks listening want to get involved, you can email us at volunteer@massbioed.org, or you can just go to our website and click on the Get Involved section. And we're really happy to kind of grow our cadre of volunteers talking to students.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I've been part of a number of career exploration days through the foundation, and I think it's a bigger win almost for the staff in the operations. The energy you get from them sharing their stories and how they got into the industry, and oftentimes very unorthodox approaches, is really energizing to them, and of course exciting, I think, for kids that come in. Go ahead.
Sorry. Can I just say one other thing on the colleges? I mentioned before the community colleges, and I think sometimes companies overlook them. And what I want to say is, I think that a lot of companies in our industry think someone needs a bachelor's degree, period, to work in the industry. And what happens, and what we've heard time and time again from talking to companies, is that when they hire people who are perhaps overeducated for the job that doesn't require a bachelor's degree, there's just an incredible high turnover in that job. And so someone may do it for 6 months, and then they want to move on because they're not happy with that job that they might think is monotonous. But if you hire someone from one of these nonprofit programs, from our apprenticeship program, from a community college, those people are super happy, and to make maybe a manufacturing job or a lab technician job their career. They're not necessarily looking to keep moving up and moving up and moving up. And so companies really need to open up their minds to employees from non-traditional backgrounds. And that's going to expand the pie of workers that we have, instead of companies just keep shifting workers back and forth, and I'll give you a buck more, I'll give you a buck more, come work for me. We really need more people, in the field, and that's one way to get them.
Yeah, it's a really good point, because the attrition rate is 20+%, I think, in this region, and it's just trading off of a lot of folks. So we just need more hands in there. And it sounds like there's a real value proposition the community colleges are offering. Is there more you think companies can do? Is it more about their job descriptions or things they could do to help pull folks in from those sources? Because I can say personally, my experience working here in the state in biotech, you got convincing leaders that it's okay to have somebody that doesn't necessarily have a bachelor's of science degree to come in to start an entry level role sometimes takes some doing. And I'm curious if you have any thoughts on how we might help make that more seamless, that view of the community college candidates.
Yeah, I'm so glad you brought up job description. So I've heard our Secretary of Labor talk many times, Rosalind Acosta, and this is what she'll tell companies: if the job doesn't need a BA, take a BA out of the description. Yeah. Really look at your job descriptions and say, does this really need that education level? Am I just using that as a proxy for something else? What is really needed for this job? And then the other thing is around recruitment. Are you really recruiting far and wide, or are you relying on your employees to recommend people that they know? Because then you're going to get people who look like your employees. So really thinking about sort of diverse recruitment and really examining your job descriptions is very important. And then, going to the community colleges for job fairs, working with these nonprofit training providers that I mentioned, because they are producing great, trained, and diverse talent for our industry, and people that you're not going to find normally. They're going to go out and do that recruitment for us. We just for our apprenticeship program, we heard from employers that our recruitment, which we did, was much better than the recruitment companies they normally work with in bringing them the kind of people that they would hire. They hired almost everybody that we sent to them. And they were people that these companies never would have found, because if they applied for a job there, they never would have interviewed them based on their resumes.
Yeah, I love your energy on this topic too, because it's so true. I think it is really looking through a different lens at what you really need and then bridging that, because the energy level you get, and frankly, everything I learned when I entered the industry as a QC technician, I learned in the lab at work. I didn't really bring a huge amount of expertise from my bachelor's degree. So I just have another question just related to the foundation and the work you did during the COVID pandemic. It's still underway, of course, but it's hopefully on its way out, as it were. But I'm curious, what are some of your lessons learned, I guess, even just with your own team, but also how you engaged with your schools, with member companies, support companies that you're supporting here. What are some of your reflections on what went well and what was surprising upside of the pandemic?
Yeah. So one thing that we learned, one thing that I haven't mentioned that MassBioed does is we offer training to people already working in the industry. And we've enhanced that training over the past year and a half to add a lot more courses, including soft skills courses. And so because of COVID, we had been doing all those courses in person. And when COVID hit, we moved them all online. And surprisingly, our classes have been as full as ever, if not more demand for them. And then being online, that gives us the opportunity to train people both across the Commonwealth, because it's pretty hard to get from the Berkshires to Cambridge for a class, but also across the country. And so that's been a big win of COVID.
That's great. And so, yeah, your usual background noise here. I've got a great question coming from Dave Newman. Do you think our elected officials recognize the important role life sciences play in Massachusetts? And would you say they're aware of these workforce development efforts?
Well, Dave Newman would know that best. I know Dave, and he probably knows. I think our politicians are very aware of this, the importance of this industry. And one thing I didn't mention in our statistics is that in Massachusetts, what's called the location quotient is for the Massachusetts life sciences industry is 3.6. And that what that means is, I'm not like a data geek, but what that means is that the concentration of life sciences jobs compared with all jobs is 3.6 times higher in Massachusetts than the rest of the country. Now that's astounding, really. And I think that our politicians know that, and that's why they support and work very closely with MassBio, because MassBio is representing those life sciences companies in Massachusetts, which are so important for our economic ecosystem.
Yeah, and look, the thing I always say is, if the state doesn't start investing in biotech 30 years ago, you don't get a vaccine in 6 months. It's those numbers are very simple to me. That investment started, a number of decades ago and really did result in some remarkable creation of a vaccine that's so effective and safe last year. So we have one final question, I think, here from Kirsten Flaherty. And what is MassBioed doing with Northeastern University on the Apprenticeship Program for Biomanufacturing? And, would we collaborate, MassBioed, I say we because I'm on the board there, collaborate with companies to create programs for biostatisticians or data managers? Is there some opportunity there?
Absolutely. So this year is our first pilot of the apprenticeship program, but the way it's designed, it can easily be expanded to other occupations, and that's our intention. So actually later this summer, we're going to start an apprenticeship program for clinical trial associates. And then next year, we're opening that program up to new occupations, and it will be based on a few things. One, demand from employers. It has to be an occupation where there's high demand. And two, it has to be an occupation that you can train for in a short period of time. So I would say under 6 months with a concentrated training. And three, you don't have to have a college degree for the job. So we will be looking at the industry to be looking for occupations that meet all three of those criteria to figure out which occupations we should be expanding the program, the apprenticeship program, to next year and in years to come. But one thing I didn't mention is this apprenticeship is an official registered apprenticeship with the Commonwealth. And because of that, it's eligible for certain kinds of public subsidies. Employers can bring people on as an apprenticeship wage, just like you think about in the trades, like the plumber and a carpenter. So it's really made to be replicated to different occupations and across the Commonwealth to different locations. So we're really excited about getting it started.
Yeah, it's just such a fantastic program, and we've had great engagement from companies in the Commonwealth, which has been fantastic. So I think we're just about out of time, but Sunny, it's been fantastic to connect with you on some of this great work the foundation's doing. And I want to thank everybody who joined us today, and really hearing your expertise. And if there's more questions about what the foundation's work is, about the apprenticeship program, I think you can reach out to Sunny at MassBioed Foundation, and she'll be happy to address those. So be sure to visit massbio.org for a look at the upcoming events and future fireside chats. So with that, thank you again, Sunny.
Thanks, Chris. Thanks, everybody.